or just do whatever people tell you?
He does what you tell him to think. We all do what you tell us to think.
What he said.
So here's the thing. If the whole system's breaking down, one thing that's very common,
Yeah.
you know, when people are scared, they just want protection. And so, huh? Wow. I don't like the plan thing, but we have to talk. That's what I was actually doing. Okay, now.
Now. Sign on.
So what we have, whoever the strongest one around says, I'll protect you. I'll protect you from the Vikings or whomever. Just pay me a little bit. Give me some food. And they would use that to build the castles and say, yo, you still need my protection. I need a bigger castle. Pay me a little bit more. Oh, I need some...
I need troops.
Yeah, I need men of arms and pay me a little bit more. And it became a massive protection racket because there's violence everywhere. And so what we have then is a system of feudalism would form up about this hierarchy or ranked in society. From those at the bottom, the vast majority who need protection, all the way up to the top. And this ranked societal, very strict classes. Classes are division by wealth. And so feudalism would rank these. And we'll talk about this, and when those are peasants, you know, it's under the rule of somebody else. I will protect you, you provide me food, work my land. Or I need protection. I'm the king, I have land, I'll give you land if you protect me. And so, eventually this will become these relatively self-sufficient farms called, okay, around one big house of the Lord called the manor, or manorialism. And manorialism would be this whole complex we'll get to about agriculture, where land is owned by the Lord and everybody works in the common. But the whole system is a loose organization of mutual loyalty. I pledge that I will defend the king, so he gives me land. So I have a kind of a loyalty. I will come to their aid. But, you know, if somebody else offers me other land, I might not come to your aid. I got a castle, what do I care? And the same thing with the peasants. I will defend you if you give me food. You know what?
Someone's giving me some more expensive land.
Yeah, it's more land, or you know what? I don't want to risk my life for you. Good luck. I wish you luck out there when the Vikings come. And so, here is a little bit of the kind of mutual cooperation. I thought this was actually kind of humorous in a dark way. So here's a few of the terms we need to know. A fief. A fiefdom is this land given by the king to a soldier, soon to be called a knight. They would give an oath of loyalty. They would get land or a fiefdom from the king with the promise that they will come to the king's aid if the king needs an army. So the king will call all of their lords or vassals who got a fiefdom to come. And so they own their independent little piece of land. They might have a castle, a manor, and they also own the people who live on there. Basically, then the king gets protection. This has a legacy from the decline of the Roman Empire, when they retreated to the manors at the end of the 300s and into the 400s. So the big thing is this. This is technically a loan. They don't own the land. They are loaned this land by the king, and therefore they have to pay back a debt they owe to the king. How do they pay it back? Military service. Military service. And then the king says, you have to defend that land you're on. So all of society is based upon this interlocking debt, which is a heck of a lot different than today. Today, nothing at all but interlocking debt. Let me rephrase that. That's our entire world today, is interlocking debt. Debt owed to debt owed to debt. And somebody's on top collecting the interest. So a vassal, also the term is liege. The vassal would be the lord who has pledged loyalty to the king. They pledge loyalty to the king. Knights who pledge loyalty to the lord, and etc. You got that? Okay, you got that. And so with that, next. At first, it was just given. Like, Whoever is the best soldier, you get it. But soon it became hereditary. So it became in the family. These would be the noble families, the nobility. It would be passed on, and I didn't write this down, it would be passed on to which son?
The oldest.
At first, remember Charlemagne's problem of giving it to everybody? That would weaken the lord. So eventually it would go to the oldest son. By the way, what if they didn't have sons? They'd marry their daughter off, and it would go to then the oldest daughter's husband. That's essentially what would happen. And soon it became hereditary, and after a few hundred years of that, it became natural. Like, it's always been this way. Well, it wasn't. Before it just went to the best soldier, then it turned into the family. And once it became natural, the nobility could say they get their power from what? God. Even though in reality they get it because they're thugs. But they get it from God. What is the term for this by the 14th or 15th century? Divine right. And we'll come back to divine right. We get our power from God. And then serfs. They're also called villains, which I know is a great name. Notice that, that's spelled different. Villain just means a peasant. And they're the ones who live on the land. They farm the land for the Lord. And almost all of them were indentured, meaning they originally had the land or something, but they had to pay a debt. And how do you pay the debt? To work the land. Well, when are they ever going to pay the debt if they're working the Lord's land? They'll never pay off the debt. And so after a couple generations, they are going to be bound to the land. They must stay on the land until they pay the debt, and pretty soon they just forgot it. It's like, oh, you live on the land. And that's a serf. It's a farmer. Are they a slave?
No.
Not quite. They technically grow their own food, but it has to be, you must give 50% to the king, and or the 50% to your lord or your knight. After the Civil War, this is going to happen in the United States, where poor farmers, many of them freedmen or former slaves, are going to take land and be plantation owners. And they will pay a debt. Pretty soon they can't pay it, so they give part of their crop. You know what those are called? Those are sharecroppers. I hope most of you have heard that term before, sharecroppers. My dad was born on a sharecropper's farm. That is true. So, tithe. And then how do you pay that? A tithe is a tax that serfs will pay. Now, technically, it's supposed to go to the church. But who is going to collect it for the church? Either the Lord or the head of the church and the local pastor will collect it for the Lord. They have a little deal going. And so this is the tax. And they can say, you must pay it to me because I get my power from God. So that's feudalism. The system we set up. The last thing is called the corvée. And the corvée is what every serf must do. This is unpaid labor. They must work for the knight, the lord, and more importantly, the king. So they will build irrigation ditches. They will build canals. They will build roads. They will build the castle. This is unpaid labor. How do they justify this? You owe a debt. You will pay. And so this is unpaid labor. Free labor. They're not quite slaves, but they can't get out of it. So that is feudalism. And so these are the three orders. The three orders are going to be the three groups, and then the French will eventually call them, some of you might know this term, the three estates. So, this is the knight or the soldier or the king, right? Who's this? The peasant. Who's this? The clergy. And those are the three orders. Which is the wealthiest? Here, then here, and which has by far the biggest but almost no power? The peasants. The three orders: clergy, nobility or king, clergy, peasants. So the military service, after the Viking raids, more and more took what the Romans, when they copied out to the Saracens, which are the virgins, knights. And the knights are going to be the lowest class of nobility. They're going to be that lowest liege, who might get a smaller piece of land, and have a lord or a baron on top, and then a king on top. And these are people who are born in the position, trained from day one, violent people. And then, they're going to train more heavy cavalry. These are the armored knights, at first with chainmail, and then eventually armored plates. Many of them might become knights down the road, but they're heavy cavalry. And then what's a men-at-arms? Yeah.
Regular people called to service.
Not, that's actually levies. Men-at-arms they're not knights, they're not horseback, but they're foot soldiers. These are trained soldiers. Their main weapon is almost always, at this time, a sword or a battle axe, a big heavy shield. Sometimes a spear or a pike, but usually a battle axe at this time. Pikes are coming again. Pikes are coming. Remember the phalanx? They're coming back. By the 1300s, there'll be phalanxes everywhere. They call them pikes. These are trained. How are they paid?
Not well.
They might get a little land or food from the peasants. They might collect a tax, but every time they go to war, what do? Yeah, they loot. Levies are peasants. When in times of combat, they give them a little bit of weapons. When you have these battles, when there's not organized soldiers, they might just, here's a spear, and they go out and fight. Maybe a few of them can use bows and arrows. That's one thing the British would do better. What happened to these guys?
They were slaughtered.
Yes, slaughtered. And so, the other element of the military service is the castles. The castle would be used for protection, to organize the forces, to train forces, but also to intimidate. Serfs better pay their taxes. Look at our castle. Look at our strength. We can do what we want because we have the castle. And here's the thing that's going to happen, why I kept calling it the protection racket. Remind me of organized crime. You know what extortion is? What's extortion? Go ahead, Brandon.
Basically, we have extortion is you would have like someone, let's say, a shop owner or something, like they're selling bread, like the bread salesman, and someone you walk up to them and be like, hey, you know, those people that might show up and steal your bread.
And what's that?
People that might show up and steal your bread. It's like, if you pay me, I'll make sure these people don't show up and steal your bread. But if you don't pay me, I'll guarantee you these people are going to show up. And then you give it the paying. Otherwise, basically they'll send people that'll show up. But the people that show up are actually on with them. They're just like, hey, I'll protect you from them, even though they are.
Yeah. It's terrible if something happened to your store. I'll make sure it's not robbed. And who's going to rob it if you don't pay me? Me. Yeah. And that's what the knights were.
See, war tax.
After the Vikings were gone, it's going to be, you need protection. Give me your food or somebody will come kill you. And who will kill you? Me. That's extortion. So when you go into organized crime, that's the biggest way they make money, extortion. I personally witnessed that in the organized crime, the mafia in Nebraska. Maybe someday I'll tell you the story of the Omaha mob. True story. But a couple more things. Look at feudal France.
Yes.
Look at feudal France this is by the middle of the 1400s, after the 100-Year War. Look at all of these. See all, it's hard to tell. Let me get the light on here. Off. Boy, it really warmed up, didn't it? All the little bit of snow is gone. It's like 90 degrees outside.
As she's in here.
So here's France, right? That's France. Yet look at all the little principalities. These are all vassal states of the king. You see a problem France is going to have down the road. And some of them, the vassal to the king of France might be the king of England. It's going to be a big problem down the road unless this thing blows up. But this gives you an idea of the decentralized state. Did it survive? Kind of. At least it kept things going. So the impact, you're going to have all these lords with lots of power. Weak states. And then all these kingdoms that did survive are going to be weak. And that's when they would create something called chivalry. And this was, we'll talk more about it, but it was this code of honor for knights to try to hold them to this weak system. And by the way, king, clergy, knights, peasants. And then the plague would hit. What would the plague do to feudalism? Yeah, destroy it. At least in Western Europe. Feudalism would last in Russia arguably until 1917. Something big would happen in 1917 during the middle of this little war called World War I. There'd be a little revolution. We'll get to revolution.
I never heard that before.
But the plague, all of a sudden half the population of Europe died. And the peasants and the serfs are like, no, I've had enough. I'm out of here. You're not going to get my labor anymore. I'm going to demand a higher wage. Gee, I wonder if that could be happening. Wait. Let me do this one. Now,
No way.
4 million workers quit their jobs this last September. They said, to hell with it, I'm not going to take these bad jobs anymore. And they quit. Why? Coronavirus really has changed things. That and the fact there's massive shortages and there's monopolies and all that. But this is the first time in your lifetime that wages are going up for working people. It's only the second time in my lifetime, which is really scary. So, all right, so then tomorrow, no, let's not do minorialism right now. Let's go to chivalry. Chivalry is what they did for knights. And here's the thing. We have all these warriors, and you live in a world of violence. I mean, if you live in a world of violence and rewarded by violence, you tend to commit violent acts. Every solution, every problem deserves a violent act, according to this idea. If you're a hammer, what does everything look like to you? A nail. Pound. How do you control them and keep them loyal? Well, cheval was the name, the medieval word for horse in France. Think about knights, they're horseback. And so they try to come up with a way to control the violent urges of these knights and also make sure they came to their aid when they needed help. And this would also try to wrap in with this concept of Christian morality. Now, Christian morality is a little bit about what was created in 200 or 300, but it's also kind of created out of whole cloth in 800 or 900 to do something about this. For example, do you remember how many wives Charlemagne had?
5.
At least one.
It was 5.
Yeah, Charlemagne had 5 wives and probably a few hundred mistresses. And that was like considered whatever, that's the way life was. Where do you think monogamy came from? This idea of kind of going back to the Roman idea of a family as a way to control people. And they brought back this concept of this weird concept that was weird to the people at the time called romantic love. As you can see in this picture right here. The knight pleading fidelity to a woman. And they also set this idea of the truths of God to protect property. If they're fighting all the time, they said, okay, you can fight all the time, but not Friday through Monday. Other times you can fight and kill each other, but not during the truths of God. Now, of course, did they really follow the truths of God? Every day. But the thing is, did they just get enough people to claim they do it and say, look at your fidelity to protect all the property? Another one was then the peace of God. The peace of God would move on till one more day, Thursday to Monday. By the way, I'm with you. That means we can only fight on Tuesday and Wednesday?
And what's today?
Circle the death. Let's go. But to protect property of Christians, or AKA the church. And also find ways, you got these men that have just been bred on ferocity and rewarded by it. Let's find a place we can send them to go on a cause. Maybe to go free the Holy Land. It's no coincidence that effort to control would be at the same time where you have Norman knights bashing all over southern Italy. Let's go to Jerusalem. So, I do like that picture. By the way, was it like this? Of course not. But it was efforts to control. But a lot of chivalry would come after the war. So I'm not going to make you know these. But let me give you an example of the values of chivalry that would be kind of created by Leon Gautier. And this would become, and I remember being told this would have a big impact on the South, while the plantation owners said, we will always defend the weak, which is ironic in the South of the United States. Weak, aka slaves, we will defend them by keeping them as slaves. Courage, mercy, faithfulness to duty, honesty, generosity, defense of just cause. What?
John C. Calhoun, positive grid theory.
A wonderful human being. And you see this. Did they really follow this? But the idea is at least they can make them think if we don't do some of these, we will look bad. So have you ever heard the term gentleman? Where does that come from? As a knight, as a gentleman?
Probably this.
Huh?
Definitely not that.
So when you're knighted, and by the way, how would they knight you? You ever see this with a ruler? And we do this?
Okay.
That's okay, they wouldn't just go a little love now. No. It's they want to crack that collar. They want to crack that collarbone. I want you to know your responsibility. You're going to remember this. And what's the other thing? And yet now you're a gentleman. It's not you're a great person. You're a gentleman. No, it's please be gentle, you killer. Not you. You find somebody else. Yeah, you're the killer. I like the break the collarbone thing. Who's broken the collarbone? Oh, we have 4 people here broken the collarbone. All right. I think I've broken them on everything. How old were you?
It was like 7, 8.
7, 8? How old?
6.
6? How old?
Young.
Just young, just random young age. Mine yesterday. And that hurt. Okay. Yeah, I was 5. Okay, so. This
What
is
year? What year?
Huh? What year? So with that, I can tell you who was president though, but I won't.
Who?
Grover Cleveland. St. Bour's Dilemma is a classic example of chivalry. And here's the choice that all knights must make. What was St. Bour's Dilemma? Now this is a French kind of myth. Suppose it's a true story, but it's about as true as me being born during the Grover Cleveland administration. So here's St. Bour. He has 2 choices to make. Shall he save the damsel in distress, or his brother who's being stripped naked and whipped and tortured to death? Who do you save according to chivalry? St. Bour saved the damsel, but praise.
Assassin.
You're an assassin?
Stop.
They'll never send another message down here again.
That is part
Yeah,
two.
but somebody
part
did.
2.
So, but pray for his brother. By the way, who would you, that was like the dilemma. Did it really happen? Of course not. But it tried to set the stage a truly noble person. So you have this whole thing about romantic love and this whole kind of charade that knights would do with noble women. How did most men and women do it? They meet and it would just happen. But they set up this stage for it. They kind of created romantic love. And on that happy note, tomorrow, what are we having? We're what sections you want the quiz on? 9-2,
Uh,
9-3, 9-4?
11-2, 11-3.
Let's go 11 and 12. Let's also 9-3 and 9-4. So if you go and look on the phone, I don't know if the internet's working. If not, we'll just do wall sit, okay? Why do you leave?
Can we do like the
You know what it's about?
and info
You're in
program?
trouble again?
Yeah, probably.
It's people like you. You can't have nice things.
Can we do the John F. Kennedy like PE curriculum?
What?
Wasn't it him that did it? He like wanted the US to like, it was like after World War II, like he wanted the US to be stronger, so like he like made PE.
Oh, yeah, that came with Kent, yeah. Didn't make it, but they had the President's Council on Fitness. Yeah.
Oh, okay.
Yeah. Took me a second, what?
I just remember you showed us the video of him.
Yeah, I had that.
Pull-ups and stuff.
What would be the question?
Let's do it. Yeah, the thought was the Americans are getting soft and the communists are getting ahead. Which, they say that about every generation. Except mine. Mine was already telling me, your generation is soft.
I think our generation.
We sent 2 non-second chance.
All of my friends' parents always talk about this and how they used to fight kids all the time when they were like in high
Brady
school.
Marys.
Yeah.
Well, I'm going to say this. There's never a fight here. And when I first started teaching, there was a fight at least 2 or 3 fights a week. And since I was a relatively big guy, young, I was still coaching football then, they'd always call me to break them up. So I knew about every fight. I'd be one of the people, always at the cafeteria, 2 or 3 times a week with this guys. And I don't mean pushing, I mean men and women, young women, wailing on each other. When's the last time there's been a fight here? Yeah, right?
2017.
And that's probably a good thing. That's really stupid.
I'm gonna start a petition to bring him back.
We were a lot more. I'm from a more violent generation.
What was it?
It's
There were 2
bullying.
freshmen.
It's bullying.
Yeah.
I don't even know
It's amazing how you have to go back to 2019.
Yeah.
But the other
People
guy
were-
was
Yeah.
2016.
Take the what?
Oh. Imagine someone shakes you down, you're student ID.
It's better there's no fight. It's a lot better. But, yeah. All right. I'll give you time to look up. Is the internet working? Are you able to get that?
I'm just on like data.
Huh?
9. Which go with Cleveland term?
Go on Teams. Is Teams working?
Which term?
No.
Teams is working on.
Teams? Oh my god, not really. Teams has been working all day.
All right. Change your plans.
Walsits?
Waltons.
That's good.
The quiz now?
Company people Walsit.
Me?
Yeah.
You know me. I always have a map.
It's a map?
Yeah.
What is it a map of?
This won't be due till next week. But I figure I'll give it to you now. I'll put the Crusades map up. It's working for you?
I'm on my data.
Oh, shoot, go talk there's a lot of data.
25. Yeah, I don't know what
Dylan, don't send it.
it is. Yeah, and bless.
Have you won the rest of it?
Thanks, Dave.
David Satter.
If you don't have that, I'll put a map up. Also, we can start to where you can use that map for some things, but it's working for you, are you using your own data?
It makes a lot of tips.
I'll hand the map out anyways, if it works. Try again.
It makes a lot of tips.
I also have
The
my.
change is really cool.
Owns the mother load.
They don't.
I would say the
they
coolest,
don't-
we're in the top
they
tier.
don't say it's a big deal, but because even they don't
Top three.
process their
Yeah.
life. So like about half of
So
it.
get them, so either work on the map or work on the, try to do the reading. Sound good? You might have to use that map, I'll put up another map.
Keep managing and stuff.
This won't be until next Monday, just simply because
The breakfast plate. Why do we never eat there?
It's so good.
I know.
You're
I
not
used to
supposed to
go
have
all the
to
time when I was
hang
little.
out.
Yeah, it's so good.
Remy
My
anything?
like babysitter's
Is it
big
correct?
Kino.
Yeah, I used to get it. I never go there, but it's so good.
That's what they said.
I
Go
didn't
back to
understand
school?
why like Kino and Bingo was like a fun thing. People then I realized like there's money involved.
Yeah, that is more fun than you.
Okay, I was sitting there and I was like, okay, my number is.
Oh, yeah, you better work.
Yeah.
Like, oh, I won, but I went nothing.
Okay, so, work on the map, I'll put down another map, but this map has most of the cities and everything, that map right there.
It's a Lutheran. Because
You should get the cities here, I'll put, I can't put anything online because the internet wasn't working, I'll talk. But you should know, I would say, a third of these things by now, right?
Is this the agency?
Spatial relationship helps you a lot.
I know probably,
Please tell me this is
I
the
don't
agency.
know. I know this Italy.
I would-
Yeah.
And I would get $12,000.
Right, yeah, so I got that one.
So we get to know today.
Empire.
My mom looks at.
It was just called the Empire.
The Byzantine.
Yeah,
What?
my dad. My dad.
You know.
Or an empire.
Yeah, but like it's like a lot more daunting when you just look at all the words.
I agree.
Well, they always are.
But the thing about it is, spatial relationships and nothing's connect.
Yeah. Yeah.
That's why I'm a big believer in math. Still think it does, but it helps.
Mhm.
Even if it's not the math, it just trains your brain. Ooh, did you notice I rhymed?
That was nice.
Yeah, that was pretty good. Train your brain. That's right. Huh?
They would do inside of.
Yes.
That makes sense, but also the building outside building is old, the building inside is so nice.
It's like her Mondays.
It's like we on there.
Your library is.
You have enough.
Let me see what happens.
Yeah. I'll
I
see
was
if I
one
can.
of Utah.
Speed them.
University of Utah.
Let's make sure I still have a copy of it.
Right? That's 3 stories. And they have one more above.
I already.
They have 7 stories of library. They have the original copy of I was into that.
So I knew I set aside a copy for. Look at this. Yeah, crazy got-
Is this close?
The maps don't coincide directly because they really didn't have set borders. They're just kind of like, this is France.
Until maybe even more land, and then this is where it's.
Yeah, borders as we know of 1500, 1600. Renaissance. Into the Renaissance.
Well, more so. It's very ridiculous. Where's?
Need wood glue.
What year, like,
That's been alive in the
what about the credit? I feel like the credit card is.
Where's the agency?
I think it's this one.
What are you looking for?
The agency.
That was from the first time.
The GNC?
Or is this one?
Yeah.
It should be.
I thought that was part of the Mediterranean.
It is.
Oh.
Well, technically, but since you know it's kind of trying by
Okay.
it.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Okay.
GN. Yeah.
No.
Oh, yeah.
I put the G in because of the Crusade. Yeah.
I finished.
Oh, it is 180. Oh, we
That's
just
all
nine o'clock.
I need to look at it right now.
Because you'll live on your
Betty
bed.
likes it.
I vow I will make a quiz and it's going to work, but I'll get one letter wrong.
Hell no.
I think
That's my plan. You like that plan?
Okay.
One letter will be wrong, and you guys go, what? Fancy.
Oh no, where is Holy Roman and then where's Empire?
I don't know.
Zero.
The average, an average coach. Average age.
What is wrong with this? Labeled Spain as France. Venezuela's fine.
No, it's true.
Like, that's not their age, but.
It's like the same thing, pretty much.
Pretty much.
Just be elected.
I mean, you could.
No, this has to be Normandy.
No, we have wrong.
Normandy's a beach.
It's such a lot of beach.
What was I even looking for?
I can show you Normandy on the map.
Yeah, we only had to use 10 zero lapses instead of 15 because.
Do you have one disadvantage from something called?
Is it not like right here?
It'll be hard.
Yeah.
The chivalry.
That's written. I mean, you could say.
This is Britain?
What?
That's Britain.
Oh, yes.
Yeah.
Okay, I remember that one.
There actually one female pope. Like, in the 800s, it's supposed to be a female pope. Too close. It was actually probably not.
I'm so confused.
You're close.
I'm so confused. How is Normandy not like right here?
What? Point. I can't see.
Is Normandy right now?
That's what
Okay,
I'm
so.
Okay.
yes.
I didn't see you pointed out.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, that's Normandy. And where, between Cherbourg and La Havre?
It was like housing. Yeah. We like actually.
But like,
Or like money from theater, things like that.
This
Oh,
was
okay.
It had to do with the just by.
That's perfect.
Didn't know if it was that one or the top one.
Yeah, the other one's green. I know they're pretty close. I don't think I put all. the
Oh.
shades on.
necessary.
So it's right here where they set up the fake tank.
Exactly, yeah. Calais, yeah.
Learning.
There's still like a 5-story cement bunker. It's pretty awesome.
Yeah.
Because what are you gonna do with 5 feet thick of cement?
Yeah.
And then in Normandy, I went to a freight ring that was built in a
Wow, that's sick. Where's
Freight was really good too.
when people swim the English
Yeah.
Channel, like, what does that mean?
She's the definition of the 19 miles.
And it's
Oh,
wild.
okay.
Because you can imagine when the water from both sides come to that one spot, it's, you gotta be really strong swimmer. And it's colder, heck, that's why they cover themselves with water.
Really?
You ever see the picture they have covered themselves with grease, the swimmers in the channel?
Oh, yeah?
They cover themselves with water, it gives them a little bit, it's so cold. The temperature of the water is like 50 degrees.
The people that swim like in incredible amounts are like so insane.
Yeah.
There's like one lady that swam like almost like 100 miles.
I can't even wrap my mind around that.
And like she ran it and she could swim it straight and like she like went blind
Yeah.
because of like the stress on her body for a bit and then she was fine.
I believe it.